What up, guys? Welcome to Base Damage, and this week on Rogue Deck Reviews, I consider this a Rogue Deck even though I know the title says Love Live Meta. Um, Love Live, to me, I've seen a lot of Love Live decks that aren't exactly meta, quote unquote, but they are, to me, Love Live is a lot of rogue-ness. It has options and a lot of different cards throughout the entirety of the series between multiple sets, like umpteen hundred, it's whatever. But I like Love Live just as much as Next, so shout outs to Joe Schmo. But this week we have a Weiss deck sent in by Dragon235. Actually hit me up on Reddit. Thanks a whole bunch, bro. Gonna be going over this because even though this would be what would be considered the meta build, I don't think a lot of people really try this. I think I saw something close to this hit, like maybe got third place or something like that in a regional late last year. I don't think it's done that well. I don't think Love Live has really done well this year as of late June 2017. But anyway, for this, it's actually a tricolor. It is red, blue, and green because yellow does not exist outside of trial decks for Love Live for some damn reason. But basically, it's trying to maximize on the climax combos from the We Are a Single Light, to which I'll go ahead and show. The two that he's running, each of the girls got a climax for We Are a Single Light. Now, the thing about it is that they are all the same name, even if, this one has Maki, this one has Nico, and 7 others. Basically, you can only run any number of even though the codes are different, even because one says like the code number then A, the code number then B, etc. Anyway, you can only run any 4 combination of it because of the name being the exact same thing of We Are a Single Light. So, some people have been running 4 copy, from what I've seen people talking about, run 4 copy of the Pants Trigger or 4 copy of the Gold Bar. Either way, you're going to get what you want, and I like the 2-2 spread plus the climax combo for the Hello Count the Stars Ren. So we're going to start over back to these zeros. Now we're showing off the climaxes. Basically, starting with this, we have School Idol Festival Umi, which is a level 0 reverser and has an act ability where you can pay 1 and send one of your level 0 lower characters in the center stage to the opponent's waiting room. Now, I would really like this if this actually hit back row, but the front row is still pretty decent early on, depending on what they have, depending on runners, depending on other reversers, stock bombs, clock bombs, whatever you want to name there. Any of the annoying stuff, she's fun to get rid of those. So, that's that, but I kind of wish it would hit back row as well, because then that would actually make stuff a little bit easier for this deck, but that ain't no problem. Speaking of runners, we have the Summer Festival Date Ellie. That is a mill runner, just like the Temporary Alliance Kirito. At the beginning of your opponent's attack phase, you mill 1 card. If it's a music, you can move her to an open position of the center stage. And she is, I want to say the exact same stats as Temporary Alliance Kirito at 25. Pretty cool. 4 copies of her, 3 copies of the Umi. Sorry, did not state, even though the numbers are there. 1 copy of Angelic Angel Nico, 500 assist in front. And when you play a green climax, you can choose one of your characters, and that character gets 1500 power for the turn. Now, you would think it's only 1 copy too, so it's not like you're trying to work on this a whole bunch. Also, because the Nico gold, it is a gold bar, the effect will more than likely go off. It's pretty good. 4 copies of this Maki. This Maki is basically their winner moment. Akatsuki on play, pitch 1 card, look at up to 4. Grab specifically a blue character. That is the drawback to this. It doesn't say grab a music character. It is specifically a blue character. From amongst them, add it to your hand. This being a tricolor deck, the main thing you're wanting to get is this Maki, but we'll get to her in a bit. She is the advantage engine of the deck starting at level 1. You basically can throw down a We Are a Single Light climax combo at 1, 2, and 3, which is amazing. But this being the winner moment Akatsuki, quote-unquote, of the deck, it's a mandatory 4 to be completely and totally honest, and I can understand why. This is the one that combos with the Hello Count These Stars climax. So this is a 500 assist in front, and when you play Hello Count the Stars, which is a blind stock, No, blue stock from the waiting room, and all characters get +1 soul. Sorry. When you play Hello Count the Stars, you can, if the number of cards in your stock is 5 or more, to which basically as long as you go in with 4 and you play the stock or play the climax, you'll get the 5th right there. So you can basically go into your climax phase with 4 and be able to resolve this effect. If your stock is 5 or more, look at up to 4 cards from the top of your deck, search for up to 1 music character amongst them, reveal it to your opponent, put it into your hand. So you have another mill thing like the Winter Moment Akatsuki clone, and this is probably if it weren't for the fact you had to have 5 stock, I would say this is so much better. Or 4 stock and then go in with 5. But this, because it's a level 0 assist, you can do this at any point in the game in which you do not have the We Are Single Light climax, and be able to just really kind of drop climax combos left and right with the mill, with the searching, getting what you need. And because she specifically grabs music character, which is the whole deck, I definitely like this card. Also because it's red, she's the adorbs. We have this level 0 Umi, which is on play. You can pay 1, pitch 1. Search your deck for a music character. Only 2 copies, understandable. Also, only 2 copies for the Rin. Personally, I would probably try to run this at 3 with having the climax combo, but I don't know. Maybe I would also be probably the one to take out the Nico, but that's my personal opinion. I still like this build. Don't get me wrong. I just look at how I would play the deck and mess around with some stuff, considering this would be the climax combo. I know I'm bouncing back to this card after the Umi. Sorry, but don't get me wrong. I still like this deck very much. So any deck that I feel can capitalize multiple climax combos off of a single name climax is already fun as fuck to me anyway. I look at it more as fun than I do like anything super competitive, but it's really cool. Sorry, I realize the word fun triggers a whole bunch of people in the Weiss community, but that's whatever. This level 0 Ren. When you use an act, you can choose one of your other characters. That character gets 500 power till end of turn, and she's a brainstorm, which is act. So if you use her brainstorm, which is a really good brainstorm, by the way, you can give the buff off of her own ability. The brainstorm is pay 1 and just rest her, which is so good. I know they're not that bad, but I like it more when you just have to rest the brainstormer as opposed to having to rest 2 characters. So this, I really like this one. Mill 4, for each climax, search your deck for music character. And it's not not like the spammable ones where after you search, you have to discard the same number of cards that you searched for type thing. I like this a lot better. So we only have, let's do the math here, Billy. 12. Okay, it's actually a high number of, so 7, 8, 12, 14, 16, 19 level 0s, but you have a nice bit of utility spread over the course of the game. Between the Winter Moment Akatsuki, you got several bits of utility to work off here, and I do like that. So for level 1, you have this Katori, which is a level 1 reverser, already right off the bat good, and an act ability. I like this better as an act than an on-play ability. Is a pay 1, pitch a climax, salvage a character. Really good. This 1500 backup Honoka, 2 of the Katori, 2 of this. We'll actually get to this last for the level 1s. Going to what I like to call Temporary Alliance Maki. It's essentially the same thing as Temporary Alliance Sinom. 500 power for each of your other music characters and Clock Encore. Really good card, and I feel a bit underrated. But then this 1/1 Maki, which is Sunny Day Song. If the character facing this card is cost 0 or lower, this card gets +1 level and 3,500 power, putting her at being basically a level 2 8,000 before any of the buffs. And then she has Clock Encore as well. So basically, if you are facing Temporary Alliance or a level 1 reverser that has no cost, this basically only works on level 1s because it is cost 0 or lower. Level 1s and 0s. She gets super big and is a really interesting card because of how many people do like to try to run the costless level 1s to try to get as much advantage as they can, whether it be ones with character encore, clock encore. This gets around that and is just like, okay, well, I'm going to punish you and make it so you have to use your resources in some way, shape, or form, because okay, this can get up to a 6 example of if they have temporary alliance seen on it or a card close enough to it. This can only get up to 6,000 by its own ability before buffs, whereas this gets up to 8,000 by its own ability before buffs, and that doesn't even include climax combos or whatever. Both offensively and defensively, it forces them to, if they do not have cost 1 level 1s, they're not going to be able to deal with this until they hit level 2, which is a really good card, reason being it that way. I accidentally hit spacebar, sorry. Okay, but getting to the Maki, which is the first We Are a Single White climax combo of the deck. When her battle opponent becomes reversed, if you have We Are a Single White, you look at up to 4 cards from the top of your deck, more of that milling, which is so powerful. You add 1 music character from among them to your hand. You put the rest into your waiting room, you choose one of your characters, and that character gets 1,000 power until the end of your opponent's next turn. If this reminds you of anything, it might be Nita Minami from Idolmaster. Her effect, though, is she gives 2,000 power to another character until the end of turn, whereas this is 1,000 power until the end of your opponent's next turn. So if you have multiples of these, you can buff each other up as you go down the line, and they'll be pretty big. It's pretty cool. Also real good about this is she can buff herself. She has an act, or when you can tap one of your music characters, and she gets 1,000 power until end of turn, which is where she gets her buff. Unlike the Nita Minami, which gets her buff like natural, she gets like a 1,500 buff when you play a climax. So that's all. It's just she buffs herself automatically and just gets huge. And she ends up being like, a 7k with the climax active alone before buffs. So as long as you tap 1, she's a 55. This Maki would be a 55 with the climax combos in here. They are the 1k ones, so that she would be a 65 before any of the buffs. So as long as you have like a 500 assist back row, you're still essentially being those stats of a normal Nita Minami, which is really good. So, always like this, plus Maki, you know. Level 2s, we only have, let's see, level 1s, I'm sorry. So 4, 8, 10, only 12 level 1s, which is completely understandable then. 3 level 2s. We'll do the backup first because this is the secondary climax combo of the deck. Or this is technically the third climax combo of the deck. So you have a climax combo at each level. The Ren, the Maki, the Katori, and the Nico. So I like that, being able to do it at each level. So you have this Nico, which is it's a 3,000 backup at level 2. But when this card is placed on stage from hand, you can choose one of your other music characters, and that character gets 2,000 power till end of turn. I would not use that first ability at all. It's not bad, don't get me wrong, but that means you have to pay a stock to summon it. If the 2,000 power helps you end up getting over something, I guess that's pretty cool. Otherwise, you're really only going to use this for the 3,000 backup. So, well, with the climaxes and whatnot, you can play this deck anyway. You would use this more defensively than offensively anyway. But the fact that you do have the option for the defense or the offense is really cool. Just at the cost of a stock either way, so it's all good. But the Katori, Angelic Angel Katori Minami. When this attacks, if the character facing this card is level 3 or higher, this gets plus 6,000 power till end of turn. If this gives you check 6 Xenon feels or vibes, that's basically pretty close to it. So they like to drop early plays. Katori likes to punch them in the face. When this card attacks, if a card named We Are Single White is in your climax area, you can pay the cost, which is 1 stock. If you do, deal 1 damage to your opponent. I like that on attack. I wish for her being a level 2 doing this, I wish it was free. But we can't get everything we want. The fact that she already gets as big as she does off of her first ability, trying to slam other level 3s in the face, considering the We Are Single White, if you do this completely and totally, she's at 8k from the climax, and then plus 6, she would be a 14k, punching another level 3 in the face before anything else. So that alone is already really, really good. So just I'm liking that already. And the burn ones will win you games. I can't tell you how many times I've just won off of the burn abilities like that. I was going to say burn spells. So only 3 level 2s. Getting into the level 3s, though, we have 5, 7, we have 8. So a couple of these are really weird, and we're actually going to work backwards to go over the Nico last because this is the climax combo. The level 1 Ren actually has a really funny effect. Or no, level 1. Yeah, the level 3, this is Happy Maker Ren. When this is placed on stage from hand, you may pay the cost, which is 1 stock. If you do, choose up to 2 cards in your opponent's waiting room. Return all cards in your opponent's waiting room except those cards into your opponent's deck, and your opponent shuffles his or her deck. Now, this does two things. Because basically when you use this effect, you're going to pick 2 climaxes. And your opponent's going to send everything else in the waiting room back into the deck. Say they're close to refreshing anyway. This gives you better odds if you know that they've triggered climaxes. If you know that they've triggered climaxes, this makes this all the more deadly, because then they go back in with only a certain number of climaxes. Say they have, they're they're about to refresh. They've triggered like 2 cards, and they triggered 2 climaxes. You pick 2 climaxes, those stay in, and everything else gets shuffled back in. They now have a whole bunch of cards in their deck, and only 4 climaxes. Your chances of them getting cancels are significantly lower when you give them that many more non-climax cards in the deck, and I really like that effect. She has a climax combo, but we're not even going to go over that because it's not applicable to the deck. You basically use her for that first ability, and that's it. So then you have this Otonokizaka High First Year Maki. If the number of other climax cards in your waiting room is 6 or more, she gets a -1 level in your hand. She gets 500 power for each of your other music characters, and when she's played, you can draw 2 cards and pitch 1. So really cool as an early play. So you technically have a couple more level 2s that you can drop, because she's also blue, and you're going to be putting in blue more than likely at level 1 anyway for the level 1 Maki. So being able to have an early play on this as well, and just gets big. She can become an 11 off that own ability. Plus, I like the alternate artwork for this. So, really cool. 2 copies of that. 1 copy of this, A Present for You, L.A. Ayase. Excuse me. If the number of your other music characters is 3 or more, she gets 1,000 power. So she basically is a constant 11. And if I'm not mistaken, this is like an uncommon from the DX2 Volume 2. And I thought this was, as a level 3, this was actually a pretty solid level 3. Also, when she's placed on the stage from your hand or by a change effect, no change effects in here for this, you may pay the cost, which is 1 stock. If you do, put all of your opponent's stock into your opponent's waiting room. And your opponent puts the same number of cards from the top of his or her deck into the stock. Now, the exact thing for this is a little weird, but the effect is actually very useful in clutch. It's kind of like in the same way that this is useful, this can also be very useful too. Especially if you drop this and then drop that. I know you're consuming so much stock for that, because that'd be like 6 stock for 2 characters. But say that you know that your opponent has a completely and total clean stock. Like you've been keeping track, and they have no climaxes in their stock whatsoever. And they have a lot of stock. This lets you get rid of all of those cards. Also, another funny idea this could potentially do, but I'll get to that later. Say you can make them refresh for game, and you make them mill just enough cards, or just send just enough cards off the top of their deck to make them refresh for game. It would be a funny way to win. But basically, this gets rid of all the cards in your opponent's stock and makes them blind stock. Neither of you at this point have any clue what cards are going from the top of their deck into their stock. So your opponent can't bank on their ratios of, okay, well, I had 6 stock before this. Okay, I know that there's no climaxes in there, so I know my chances of getting a cancel within X number of cards is a certain probability. By doing this, you add in that unknown element, because it's blind. You don't get to see the cards when this happens. Your opponent basically gets screwed over, and they have to kind of guess, okay, if it's a Kantai player, do I have to play my compasses now? Or if it's a Tularu player, do I have to play my darkness plans now? And they have to work based off that a little bit more. They have to decide a little bit more, because they don't know how many climaxes just got shoved into their stock, which is a funny effect and a funny idea. So I like that effect, but as a one-of, it's an interesting little tech. I would honestly consider also there's a level 3 Nozomi that's also a clock shoot, but you're mostly going to be trying to use this Nico, which is a clock shoot effect. When she's placed on stage from hand, you can heal 1, which is already good. When this card attacks, if We Are a Single White is in your climax area, you may pay the cost, which is 1 stock. If you do, until end of turn, this gets 2,000 power and clock shoot. When the battle opponent becomes reversed, you may put that character into your opponent's clock. Mandatory 4-of for this. I'm just saying, because you are going to be trying to drop this like crazy. Let's see. So 2,000 should be a 12, and then guaranteed at least 13,000 off this before any other buffs. to which you can mess around and do some crazy little buffs, shenanigans between a couple different cards in here. Like if you end up actually dropping the Nozomi to give her like a plus 2,000, it'd be kind of cool. Especially if that's for game. If you have to know that you have to clock shoot for game, I completely understand why you'd have to do that. So between a couple other buffs you can do here, there, everywhere, it can be very interesting being able to try to getting those clock shoots. And believe me, I've played plenty of games with like Kantai where clock shoot just wins you the game, and this is such a great effect. Also because clock shoot, the way that it's worded, except for the Labrys from Persona 4, I need to look at the wording again. From my understanding, normally clock shoot does not work on, reword that. Normally, regular clock shoot works on hex-proofed, quote-unquote, characters. Like, you can clock shoot the level 3 Yami from To Love Ru. Persona 4, the Labrys is worded a bit differently. I think it actually states that you target off the thing. I need to go back and look at it another day. But anyway, really good card. And the fact that you can drop a climax combo every single level as long as you get the stuff to do so. Also, getting extra stock off of this is really nice. The milling, just the profuse amounts of milling between multiple cards is just really, really good to me and can net you a lot of advantage, more so than some other compression engines. Obviously, I like compression a whole bunch, but this helps you just cycle through and get what you need first, replenish hand, and a lot of it's fairly costless, and I like that. As far as having to pay stock out, you don't really have to pay a whole bunch of stock early levels, so I like how this is set up. Tricolor for this is also very easy to set up. You drop blue at level 1, you drop red at level 2, and you drop green at level 3. And it flows. I like that that's the setup, and that's how it flows, and you have plenty of targets throughout the course of the game to be able to get into the clock, or the level for that. Very easy, very simplistic, and really, people make it out to be tougher than it actually is. Anyway, thank y'all for watching. I hope y'all like this, because I certainly have liked looking at this deck and liked being able to post it, even though I have not. At one point I wanted to make this something close to this deck. Just stuff got a little pricey for me, and I was kind of wanting to focus on some other sets about to come out. So either way, thank you also very much. A big shout out and thank you to Dragon235 for sending it in. This has been Kool-Aid from Base Damage. This deck definitely gets my seal of approval, because I love to see stuff like this in the meta. Like, even though this isn't, I mean, this would be considered what would be the Love Live meta. It's not seen as much in the English meta as I would want it to be seen. But thank y'all for watching. Hope y'all had enjoyed watching the video. Please comment, subscribe, comment anything you'd want to see on the channel, videos, topics on the podcast, etc. If you have your own Rogue deck reviews, please send them in. I would love to go over them and show them off on the channel. It would be much appreciated. And y'all have an awesome day. Peace out for now.